Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Lisa Brown. I'm an employee of the Joplin Public Library. I'm the administrative assistant there. And today I am doing a cooking demo. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt that says Tales and Tales. That is our theme of summer reading. So in keeping with that, I thought I would demo dog biscuit making. So we're gonna make some dog biscuits today. If you're a cat person, I'm sorry, but we can dig up some recipes for you too for cat treats. But today we're doing dog biscuits. I make dog biscuits in my spare time. I love to cook anyway, but I often make dog biscuits for friends and family and students that I teach. So first thing we're gonna do, because it's a pandemic and because it's just a good idea of basic hygiene, is to wash our hands. So come with me over here and we're gonna wash our hands. When I did this last summer, it made people giggle. I'm like, do you people not wash your hands before you cook? Even though they're dogs, they deserve clean hands. All right. Okay. Hands are clean. All right. So over here, the first thing I'm going to mention is the source of the recipe. Today we are making a recipe called Cheese Please Hound Rounds. It's a very basic recipe. It's going to be pretty simple to put together. So if you're not really comfortable in the kitchen, I think you could still pull this off. This is going to be just fine. Just bear with me. So the source that I got this recipe from is, this book is pretty beat up. I've had this book a long time, probably for 20, 25 years. It is the 3 Dog Bakery Cookbook. It has all kinds of recipes in it, everything from like a doggy meatloaf to dog biscuits to dog crumpets. It's kind of a cool book. But I got this recipe, I adapted this recipe from the cookbook. The only difference, actually, when I say I adapted it, I left a couple things out. I made this recipe nut-free. The original recipe calls for peanuts. I thought sometimes people are allergic to nuts, so it might be best just to offer the nut-free option in general. So, also I left out the cilantro because I like cilantro. It's not for everybody. There are people that can't even stand the smell of cilantro if you have that particular gene. It is a gene. Some people say it smells and tastes like soap to them, so we'll just leave it out. I don't think dogs have that gene, but I've never researched it. So these are the ingredients that we're going to use. This is a very simple setup. We have white flour. If you want to use whole wheat flour, that's just fine. If you want to make it gluten-free, I've made cheesy biscuits with brown rice flour before. So there are gluten-free options out there if you have gluten sensitivity or your dog eats a gluten-free diet. So today we're using white flour. I've got 2/3 cup of water. It's just tap water. I have about 1.5 teaspoons of dried parsley. So parsley is really good for dog's breath. It's a breath freshener. You can use fresh parsley if you want, but I think dried parsley is a lot easier to work with. There's no chopping, no washing. And this is just a basic grocery store dried parsley. I bumped it up. The original recipe calls for about 1 teaspoon. I bumped it up to 1.5 teaspoons since we're not using cilantro. And then we have 2 tablespoons vegetable oil. This is to give it a little bit of fat and just kind of mix it together. And then we have the important component, which is the cheese. These are Cheese Please Hound Rounds. So we've got 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar. The recipe calls for low-fat cheddar. I just used regular cheddar. I don't think it's going to really cause an issue. If you do have a dog that is a little sensitive to fats in their diet, you could use a reduced fat cheddar. But I wanted the flavor, so I'm going with a regular cheddar. And this is just a mild cheddar. If you have a really adventurous dog, you could use a sharp cheddar. If you want a more conformed color, you could use a white cheddar, but I went with the orange cheddar today. And then we have cottage cheese, 1/2 cup of cottage cheese. This is to add some moisture as well as more cheesy flavor. This is a low-fat cottage cheese. And one thing I like about all these ingredients in this cookbook and other cookbooks that I've used for dogs is they're just pantry ingredients, grocery store ingredients. There's nothing really special or outrageous. it is just stuff you should have in your house, and it's all human grade ingredients, human quality. So it's very important. It's good quality stuff that we're using to cook for our pets. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is mix these things together. I'm gonna use my little cheat sheet here, hope you guys don't mind. All right, so the oven is preheated to 375. I also have my cookie sheets ready to go. I sprayed them with a cooking spray. You could brush them with a little bit of cooking oil, vegetable oil. One thing I don't recommend is using butter because I just think that's a lot of extra unnecessary fat. But yeah, so I just use cooking spray. It's what I usually do if I'm not using parchment paper. So, all right, so the first thing we're gonna do after we've preheated the oven to 375 is we're going to mix together the flour, cheddar, and cottage cheeses and parsley. So I've got my flour right here. This is 2 cups of flour. We're gonna dump it in there, get all that flour. And we're going to mix in the cheeses. Stuck. I did a word about the cheese. I shredded it fresh. I don't really recommend buying the pre-shredded cheese simply because they use fillers and anti-caking ingredients that sometimes can affect the meltability of the cheese. So I always, whenever I have a recipe that calls for shredded cheese, if I'm not going to be in a big hurry, I will just go ahead and shred the cheese myself. All right, so we've added the flour, the cheddar, and cottage cheeses, and now we're going to add the parsley. This is about 1.5 teaspoons of parsley. It's going to give it a nice pop of color, and we're just going to mix these ingredients together. You can see it's still pretty dry. So what I'm going to do next, we're going to add the oil and water and mix thoroughly. So here I have 2/3 a cup of water. It doesn't really need to be warm water or cold water. I don't think it really matters. Oops, making a mess. I should have worn an apron. All right, and then we've got the canola oil. You can use vegetable oil as well. I don't recommend using olive oil because it does have a distinct taste. I love olive oil, but I don't usually use it in dog biscuits. So we're gonna add the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And we're just gonna mix. So I'm finding that it's still a little dry, so I think what I'm gonna do is add just a touch more of water. Actually, maybe not. Maybe just a little bit. I see a little bit of flour stuck at the bottom there, so I'm just gonna get just a scorch more water. We want this batter to be kind of sticky, but we want it to come together. We don't want to have the flour kind of hanging out in the bottom. So as you can see, the dough came together. You can see the bits of cheese in there. And this is really all you need to do. Other recipes I have made are a little more complicated. You have to roll out the dough. You've got to cut the cookies, use cookie cutters. And this one I just like, it's very low maintenance. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna break off, it says golf ball size pieces and shape into balls. So this is why we washed our hands. If you wanna wear gloves for this, knock yourself out. I like to get my hands dirty when I cook. So I'm not really gonna do golf ball size pieces because that's pretty big. So I'm gonna do a piece about that big and I'm gonna moosh it down. You could roll it into a ball if you want, but I think I'm just gonna kind of shape it and leave it about like that. So we're gonna put them on the cookie sheet. This won't take too long because there isn't too much batter. And it's a good thing that we sprayed the cookie sheet because these are a little sticky. So a word about extra ingredients. I like to improvise when I cook. When I used to make these biscuits, I did something that was kind of bad. I would add garlic powder because I thought cheese and garlic are 2 things that go together. but there are human foods that are toxic to dogs. One of the foods that is really toxic is onions, and guess what? Garlic is in the onion family. So I quit using garlic powder whenever I would make these biscuits. I love garlic. I think dogs like garlic, but it's not good for them. So it's best just to not. Ooh, this is sticky. See? So I think my friend Luke here, who is filming, is going to maybe do like a little, we're going to do maybe a recipe card for this recipe, so you can download it or copy it, photocopy it, print it off, whatever you want to do. So you won't have to memorize, you won't have to watch this video repeatedly if you don't want to see me making dog biscuits 20 times. I think we're just gonna do one pan here and then I'll do the other. Whew, yeah, see, sticky. These are good. My dogs really like these. But anyway, so I think what I might do is have Luke copy a couple more recipes from this book. We can add those to the package. And we actually have a couple books in our collection that are doggy cookbooks that you might want to check out. I can't remember the titles offhand, but we do have them in our cookbook collection. And it's just, cooking for your dog is a fun thing to do. It's a great way to show them that you love them. It is, dogs really enjoy treats, obviously. Store-bought treats sometimes have not so great things in them. So I think cooking for your dog is just a wonderful idea, especially if you have a dog with food sensitivities. A lot of people I know do feed a raw diet, and they make their own dog's food. So it can be a little labor intensive, but it can be a nice thing to do for your dog. I'm gonna wash my hands. So we're gonna pop these in the oven. They're supposed to cook for 30 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 15 minutes on the bottom shelf, and then I'm going to change them out and do 15 minutes on the top shelf to see. I'm just gonna kind of gauge it and see how they're cooking up. So roughly 30 minutes is how long they need to cook at 375. So let's go ahead and pop these in the oven. We're gonna start on the bottom rack, and we're gonna cook this for about 15 minutes at 375. Okay, I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes, and I am gonna keep an eye on this. I'm really glad my oven was clean. So yeah, so we're gonna take a break here. I'm gonna get another pan ready just so I can use the rest of the batter, and then we'll check back in with you when the cookies are ready to come out. All right, bye. All right, we're back. We're about halfway through the baking process. I keep checking on these. They're getting pretty crisp on the bottom. I was cooking them on the lower shelf. And with the cheese, with the fat, they're gonna get nice and crispy. So I think what I'm gonna do is flip them over and put them back in for maybe another 10 minutes. I don't want them to burn, but I definitely want them to cook. So we are going to flip them over. You can hear that nice crunch from the cheese. All right, and I think what I'm going to do is actually squish these down a little bit because they don't have any baking powder in them, so they're not really going to puff up. But I want them to cook all the way through. If they're too thick, you're going to get kind of a doughy center. And the dogs might not care, but I do. So, all right, so we're going to put these back in the oven. I think I'm going to go ahead and put them back on the lower shelf to get them cooking. All right, and we're going to put the timer on for maybe 10 more minutes and just keep an eye on them. All right, back, folks. I think these are ready to come out of the oven. As you saw earlier, I did flip them, and they're getting pretty toasty on the bottom, so I think it's time to take them out. I don't want them to burn. So here we go. So these are fresh out of the oven Cheese Please Hound rounds. You can see the crispiness of the cheese. That's going to be really yummy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out, and I think I might actually put them on a plate because that's a lot prettier than sticking them on some wax paper. I should have thought of that, so bear with me. All right. So we have a pile of dog biscuits. These are Cheese Please Hound rounds. I'm going to see if I can get my dog in here and see if we can do a taste test. They might be a little warm, so I think I might break them apart. Oh, so don't judge me, but because these are human grade ingredients, I often try the dog biscuits that I make. So I am going to snap off a little piece just to see how it tastes. It's pretty good. Very cheesy. It's important to remember that we're not adding things like salt or sugar. So dog treats that you might try that are with human grade ingredients are going to be a little bland for our more seasoned palate. But yeah, let me see if I can get my dog in here and we'll try. We're going to bag the idea of giving these to my dog. He is asleep on the couch and I don't want to disturb him. And I think these might be a little toasty anyway. But yes. These are something we created very quickly. You saw how fast those came together. I just think it's a super simple recipe, and I think dogs will really like it because most dogs love cheese. A couple words of caution. Because this is a little fattier with the cheese in it, you don't want to give your dog too many treats. Use them judiciously. And because they don't have any preservatives, I would pop them in the fridge once they cool down. That's a good idea. You don't want them to start growing things. So. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen. I had a great time cooking with you. So hopefully we'll do it again sometime. Bye-bye.